Shabbos. There's a Zohar that says before Mashiach comes, there'll be a battle between Ishmael and the Jewish people. Ishmael is the forefather of the Arabs. As a matter of fact, in that war, the Zohar says 3 towers will come down. There were those that after 9/11 said that's what it meant. But I might suggest that these towers that have come down are figurative towers. These are towers of perspective and that which solidified our life until now. The first tower that came down was the bitachon, the faith that we had in the Israeli army, that the Israeli army is invincible, that they will certainly protect all of its people. Unfortunately, that proved to be incorrect on October 7th. Just like the Yom Kippur War, we put too much credit into the Israeli army, and then we had the disaster of the beginning of the Yom Kippur War. And we forgot that at the end of the day, we always have to put our faith in Hashem. We have to do whatever we can actually. We need a strong army. We need to help the army. But we have to know that the army needs Hashem. And without Hashem, the army can't do anything. So the sense of confidence in just the army, that rug was pulled out from under us. Number 2, our faith in the world in general, particularly in the intelligentsia, into the higher learning, and the universities and the culture. That would make a person into a good person, a decent person. And what we're seeing is that the seat of learning and sciences and higher understanding, these are the most decrepit anti-Semitic places in the world. And by the way, just an interesting thought, there are those who put so much faith in the justice system, in the courts. Look at where do you think they come from? The elites come from these same Harvards and Yales and Penns and Stanfords, the same kind of mindset, which what we've seen cannot be trusted, we cannot rely on for decency, for morality, for ethics. In a very long letter the Rebbe sends to Elie Wiesel, where Elie Wiesel is concerned with how could God allow something like a Holocaust to happen. The Rebbe basically says to him, the first one to ask those questions were Abraham and Moses and Job, and that didn't weaken their faith in Hashem. Yes, they didn't get an answer to their question. How can the judge of the entire world allow such injustice? But they do understand that at the end of the day, Hashem is beyond logic and understanding, so a human being cannot fathom an infinite God. But the greater question is that of the 20th century at the time, which thought that this century we could trust the people who are into poetry and culture and sit in the salons of Berlin and mix with the higher echelons of society and the intelligentsia, and that these people could go and do what they did in Treblinka and Auschwitz. That is what we should have learned. How we cannot put faith in man and man's understanding. So I think that's the other building that's come down. A building has come down which is about belief in culture and frankly, in all the people around us, that they are decent necessarily. Yes, there are what we call Chasidei Yom, the righteous Gentiles around us. I believe some 60-something% of Americans are on the side of Israel. Although, when you're talking about 18 to 24-year-olds, 48% support Hamas. 48% of 18 to 24-year-old Americans support Hamas in the battle against Israel. It's unbelievable. It's unfathomable. We, the Jewish people, suffered such a slaughter, and they're protesting against us. when they didn't protest for the Arabs or Muslims in Syria, hundreds of thousands, in Sudan, in all these countries that have done terrible atrocities. Just right now, Pakistan is kicking out 700,000 or more Afghanis. The 700 came after the Taliban took over. What do you think is going to happen to them when they get back to Taliban? They're kicking them out. They're burning down their homes. They're kicking them out back to Afghanistan. Not a peep. No one says anything. So it's very clear that all those people protesting against Israel is just basic anti-Semitism. And the third building that's come down, I think, is the building of the belief that a two-state solution is some kind of a solution. What a joke. Because we know clearly that that's not what they want. They don't want a country of their own. There are 22 Arab Muslim countries. There are 57, I believe, Muslim countries. There are enough countries that they have. Israel is a matchbox in the Middle East compared to the rest of them. That's not what they want. They just want that we shouldn't be there. This is what Sarah actually tells Abraham 2 portions ago in Parshas Vayera. Sarah tells Avraham, you got to send Yishmael out of the house. He's a danger to Yitzchak. Abraham doesn't want to listen, doesn't want to do it. And God comes to him and says, you have to listen to Sarah. Because Sarah says, this boy, Yishmael, will not inherit with my son Yitzchak. Now, the normal way of understanding it is that no way he's going to be the inheritor of Abraham. It's only going to be my son Isaac. But actually, what Sarah is saying is he won't be willing to inherit with Yitzchak. He doesn't want half. He wants it all. And he's not willing to have half. He wants Yitzchak not to have anything. That's what we have now. And anyone who doesn't see it and doesn't understand it, I don't know what they have that's between their ears. It's so clear that to talk about a two-state solution now is absolutely ridiculous, preposterous. Most Jews understand that. So the faith in some kind of a solution that you could have by giving up parts of Israel is that building, that tower has come down as well. But we don't just have the coming down of towers. When we have the coming down of towers, there isn't a vacuum. There's something that comes to the fore. And what comes to the fore, 3 powerful buildings, 3 powerful edifices. That is the beauty of the Jewish people and the Jewish nation. And they are, I would suggest, the unity that we see amongst us, the beautiful unity that we're seeing 300,000 Jews marching in Washington, D.C., and Jews giving money and helping and praying and doing good things for the sake of the soldiers. When I was on the plane, I asked people to put on tefillin, and a few people wanted to say no, but I said, do it for the soldiers. Says, okay. We're caring for each other. It is a beautiful sight to see the actual unity. You know, there's a fellow who came from Crown Heights to Washington and put on a fellow called Zalman Cohen. And he asked, you know, there was many Jews putting on film. People were doing it. People were doing the mitzvah of film. And he asked this one guy to put on film, and he didn't want to. And he says, so what's the matter? Why? He looked like he was very sad. He says he's in Israel, and his father passed away 2 days ago. I think it was his father. And he can't go back to Israel for some reason. He couldn't go back. And he's very sad. He's here alone, and it's what's happened. So he says, look, you know, if you couldn't go back, maybe you could do a mitzvah for your father. If you put on tefillin for his sake, for his merit, maybe you could do so. So he did. He put on the tefillin. Then the big fellow realized, hey, he didn't say Kaddish. So he asked 10 youngsters to come by, put on your hoodie, put on the hoodie, and the guy said Kaddish. And then everyone came to him and said, Hashem comfort you. And each one came up there and they hugged him and embraced him. A guy they never saw, they didn't know who he was. The unity of Am Yisrael. It's seen now in such a beautiful way. I was at the Ohel of the Rebbe the other night when a group of 150 families of hostages came. It was sponsored by Chabad and a generous donor who chartered a plane and brought them just to go visit the gravesite of the Rebbe to pray for their loved ones. And the feeling around everyone else around these people, the care and the compassion and the love that we saw at the time, absolutely remarkable and beautiful, this unity that we have. And the other building that we're building now is the building of mitzvahs, a mitzvahs work, prayer and Torah mitzvahs work to help our brethren in Eretz Yisrael and Israel. There's I just heard a remarkable story. There was a fellow who came into the Situation Room. They saw that 3 tanks were blown up by RPGs. 3 tanks, 12 people in a tank. That's 36 soldiers killed. And then in the Situation Room, they get a call. He picks up the phone. It's one of the commanders of one of the tanks. He says, "Hey, thank God, but how you calling me?" He says, "Well, our tank, the track fell off one of the kind of the tire, and we left the tank because we were stuck there. We've been sitting ducks, so we left. The second tank saw that the first tank, they left, so something must be wrong, so they went out and they also left. And the third tank did the same, so 36 soldiers left out of the way, and that's when the tanks were blown up by the RPGs. So they were all saved. And they say, please do not stop praying for us. Do not stop doing mitzvahs for us, because it's working. It's helping. There's so many miracles the soldiers are able to tell us of what's going on there. Yes, unfortunately, we have losses, but the amount of miracles that are taking place are absolutely remarkable. And the last tower I would suggest is the joy of the Jewish people, the joy of the Chayalim. If you look, there's so many beautiful videos coming out with seeing them dancing and singing. The Rebbe said, I just saw a little clip of what the Rebbe said, that when there's joy amongst the soldiers, when we pick up their morale and make them happy, and our enemies see that, even if the enemies themselves don't see it, but they're, so to speak, ministering angels of the enemy see the joy that the soldiers have, they say, hey, they get afraid. It brings fear into them because they know that this confidence means that they are confident that Hashem walks amongst them, that Hashem is amongst their camp, as the Torah clearly says, that Hashem walks amongst your camps when you go to war. And if that is the case, then certainly they get fear, they become afraid, and our victory becomes stronger. So 3 towers come down. The tower of 2-state solution, the tower of belief in our universities and our in society in general, frankly, right? And the tower of belief in our own strength, not in Hashem. And what comes up is an edifice of the unity of the Jewish people, an edifice of the Torah mitzvahs that we're doing for the sake of the soldiers, an edifice of joy, knowing that we're certainly going to be victorious. These towers come up and will certainly bring the ultimate victory and the imminent arrival of Mashiach. Good Shabbos.